Hi everyone, my name is Matthew Sammon. I'm a final year student at the School of Chemistry here in Trinity College, and today I just want to talk about the application process to Trinity as a student from Northern Ireland and what it's like to study here. So just a brief overview of the talk. I'll talk very briefly about the courses and the electives we offer and scholarships, but most importantly college life, what it's like to study here day to day, and then the support services and accommodation in Dublin, which I'm sure many of you will be curious about. And then I'll talk about fees and student finance, as well as the application process to the courses here. And I'll talk about the application process for medicine, just because I'm sure many of you will be medical applicants, and that differs just very slightly. So obviously I'm from Northern Ireland, specifically County Derry. So I'm somewhat biased, and this is the only student life I've ever known, but I love studying here, and I would love to encourage most of you to make the application to study here. You know, most of my friends now and some of the best experiences I've ever had are a direct result from me putting Trinity as my #1 CAO choice. So no matter what your course is or what your hobbies are, or whether it's sport, music, anything, any form of art, Trinity really is the place for that to flourish. Just looking at Trinity, you know, at a glance, it's consistently ranked as the #1 university on the island of Ireland. It's a very research-driven university, very industry-focused, and very entrepreneurial. Trinity graduates really go on to do great things, and a degree from the college is very, very useful. Like I said, it's a very research-driven university, so you know, you guys are going to be coming out of school after 4 years of state exams, where for your GCSEs and A-levels you sat in class, copied down notes from your teacher, and then repeated those on an exam paper. That's not really how things work in Trinity. You're going to be taught by professors who are really the top of their game. They're very well respected within their field, not just in Europe, but internationally. And you're going to be presented with material, not to repeat it on an exam paper, but to interpret it. You know, they're looking to see what you get out of it and what you think of it. And that's something I've really enjoyed coming out of the A-level system. So no matter what it is you're doing in any of the schools, they're conducting really fabulous research at the minute. And it's really great to be taught by people who are that well respected, and to see, you know, the point of what you're learning and how it's impacting the world today. Looking at the education structure at a glance, most of the degrees we offer here are 4-year undergrad degrees, bachelor's degrees. Some of these are 5-year professional degrees, so the final year for your master's, so in computer science and engineering. Some do leave after 4 years with just a bachelor's, but you know, if you want to become a chartered engineer, you need to have a master's, so most people complete the 5 years. And then if you decide you like your time in Trinity so much, we do offer 1-year master's degrees and also doctoral studies, so 4 years to complete a PhD. We have 3 main faculties here in Trinity, so the arts, humanities and social sciences, engineering, maths and science, and health sciences. So I'll talk a bit briefly about each of these. So all 3 faculties, I suppose, are very well known internationally. The Faculty of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences is like the others in that they produce graduates who go on to do exceptional things. So maybe Michael O'Leary is somewhat controversial in that sense, speaking as a Ryanair customer, but you know, Oscar Wilde, Mary Robinson, the list goes on. People do very well coming out of Trinity as a direct benefit of the Trinity education. But a point I really like to make is how flexible the Trinity education is. It's a very broad education, which I find very beneficial. A lot of courses I've seen, you know, in Ireland and also the UK are very rigid from the get-go. In Trinity, it's not really the case. It really encourages you to take as many modules within your field, but also outside of your field. For example, business, the best degree is 2 years of common study in a wide range of modules in business, economics, and sociology. But there's 10 degree options from that, which really gives you the time to find, you know, what it is you're passionate about and where your interests really are. Because speaking from my own background, when I left school, I wasn't entirely sure what exactly I wanted to do. I knew I liked science, but wasn't sure exactly. And Trinity really helped me find what it is I really enjoy. And that's the same for all programs, very, very flexible. And we offer many joint honours programs, which I'm not going to go into detail. You can see right there that there's a lot for me to go through. But that can be found on page 28 of your Trinity prospectus. And also, I'm sure there'll be a talk today about that, which I really encourage you look into. We have over 600 course options here in Trinity, so there really is something for everybody. And you can be sure no matter what course it is you do, it'll be a very good move for you. Again, just talking about this idea of flexibility, you can come in to a joint honours program and adjust the proportions of the subjects you're doing. So what you want to major in, what you want to minor in, or taking on new electives. So I really encourage you look into further talks about that today. The Faculty of Engineering, Maths and Science. I'm based in the School of Chemistry, but I work in lectures. I share lectures with people from the School of Physics and Immunology. And even at a research level, it's very interdisciplinary, which you can really feel throughout the faculty, and it's great. It's very important for scientists or engineers, to work with others in slightly different disciplines, and I find that really enjoyable. Also, we have Nobel laureates, and again, the research that's being conducted is really interesting and making a big impact in the world. I've already mentioned engineering and computer science, they're normally 5-year programs. Engineering is normally completed through a common entry program. In the first 2 years, everyone in the engineering course shares general engineering modules. At the end of your second year, you pick what you want to specialize in for your bachelor's and master's, which is a great way to study. It's similar to other course structures, and the Trinity really wants you to leave with a very broad education, and it really will benefit you in your career. When I went to Trinity, the science program was one general science, natural science program. Now it's been split up somewhat into biological, geological, physical, and chemical. But at the core of it, it's the same, that you do get to take on electives in the other sciences, and that's really important. Science is synoptic. It's really beneficial for you to know or having a good knowledge of the other fields of science. Particularly if you do go on to research, but in anything in terms of critical thinking, it's very important. And then we also have degrees in maths and theoretical physics. The Faculty of Health Sciences is comprised of 4 schools, and then again, it's no exception, very research driven. So innovations like the hypodermic syringe and the nicotine patch were a direct result of work that had been carried out in Trinity. The School of Medicine is one of the oldest medical schools in the world. And even now, from day one, interactive learning, you're in the School of Anatomy working with cadavers from day one. So no matter what program you're looking at, this is no exception. You're not being funneled through a very rigid syllabus. From day one, you're getting to work with your professors in a very collaborative way, which I really like. I never really considered the libraries in the universities I was applying to. I assumed that every university would have one. I assumed that I would use it maybe once or twice, which was a big underestimation. You use it all the time. But the libraries in universities do differ somewhat, and the Trinity Library is one of the most phenomenal in Europe and worldwide, actually. It's a legal deposit library. There's very few in the UK and Ireland that have this privilege, in that they're legally entitled to 1 copy of every book that's published in the UK and Ireland. And that's really important. So no matter what subject you go to study, you're going to have to conduct an original piece of research in the form of a thesis, or write a dissertation, or you will have to write many essays. And it's really great knowing that all the resources you could ever want are there in the library waiting for you. And the library is also beautiful. So even if you don't come to Trinity, if you're ever in Dublin, I'd recommend that you come view the library and see the Book of Kells, because it really is something else. Trinity is also a very global university. So we're right at the edge of Europe, but we have very good relationships with the universities across North America, Europe, and further afield. So all programs will give you the opportunity to take advantage of these exchange programs, and I really encourage you to look into that. There'll be talks on it today. But you won't be subject to any increased tuition fees from that. Just a really great experience. So I do recommend you look at that. Trinity is a very modern university. We're very focused on developing the campus and developing the way we run things here. But we are still firmly rooted in tradition as an ancient university and the idea of scholarship. So if any of you guys perform sufficiently well in your A-levels, you can qualify for an entrance exhibition, where you'll get a book token from the university, and that will help you with paying for your text in first year. There's also sports scholarships for any athletes. You'll get access to some of the best facilities in Ireland, as well as really good training opportunities. We also have choral scholarships through the chapel choir. And there's more scholarships than this. I just haven't got a big enough slide to list them all. But the big one I like to talk about is the Foundation Scholarship, which we call SCOLs. They're elective exams you can sit in your second year in your area of study. But if you get a first in these exams, you'll get free tuition fees, free accommodation on campus, and free meals every single night, known as Commons, for 5 years. And that's obviously a huge, huge advantage. I'm very jealous of my friends that got that, but it really does give you a huge step up at the start of your academic career, and just really helps you along. Obviously, there's more to life than studying. Some of the fondest memories I'll have of Trinity are outside the lecture theatres, the labs, and the library. We have over 170 societies based in our city centre campus, so there really is something for everyone. So whether you're a rugby player or an avid knitter, Trinity Knitting can help you out, but there really is something for everybody. At the end of teaching term every year, we host the Trinity Ball, which is the largest private party in Europe. So the last time I went, George Ezra played. You can only get tickets if you're a Trinity student or alumni, but it's a really terrific night out, and I feel very lucky that we have that. Two societies in particular, the Phil and the Hist, are two of the oldest student societies in the world. And under normal circumstances, attract celebrities every year to come give keynotes. So you could be sitting in a lecture theatre at the end of the day thinking, oh, I've got to get out of here and listen to Jonah Hill or Martin Scorsese at the Phil. I feel very lucky that I've had that, and they're lifelong memberships, so you can continue to access those talks after you graduate. Obviously, it's not necessarily the done thing to come study in the Republic of Ireland if you're from the north. I know when I was leaving school, I felt most of my friends and classmates were going to study, well, they were going to stay in the north or they were going to move to Britain. But over a quarter of the students in Trinity are from outside the island of Ireland. So everyone is very much in the same boat, and everyone's looking to meet new people. So personally, I didn't find it too much of a jump. But there are supports there to help you really integrate from day one. So whether it's the counselling service or the disability service to provide extra support for students that need it. We also have the student-to-student program where you're assigned a mentor in your first year that helps you out with your course, because they're a second year in your course. And then the student union obviously organise events throughout the year. It's a very close-knit campus. From day one, you really do feel like you've become part of the community. Also from day one, you're assigned an academic tutor within your faculty. And they stay with you throughout your degree study. And if you have any academic concerns or personal concerns, they're the one you address, and they really help you navigate your time through college, and it's very, very helpful. With regards to living in Dublin, like I said, I'm obviously biased, but I do love it here. I wouldn't have spent a huge amount of time in Dublin growing up, but I can't imagine anything else now. There's a very vibrant social scene, and I don't go home too much, but if I do want to go home, it's very well connected to the north by bus and rail. It's also a lot of industry is here. Dublin's booming at the minute, so no matter what you're studying, there's opportunities for you to get part-time work. So some people go work in Google and Facebook. I've worked out in Intel, and it's really great that all the opportunities you could want are here. So many summers I've opted to stay in Dublin, and I really do feel like it's my home away from home. In terms of accommodation, I'm sure many of you have questions about that. It's obviously more of a financial consideration than studying somewhere like Belfast, but for anyone that's making a UCAS application, there's plenty of places in England and Scotland, namely Edinburgh and places like Bath, where there's a huge pressure on accommodation and also very pricey. So I would encourage you to be open-minded about it somewhat. People do get started. In my first year, I stayed in Trinity Hall, where most first year stays. I'll talk about that in a second. But then I just rented houses after that, and it's very easy to find accommodation if you're a student of Trinity, because the SU help you get a house and stuff. So honestly, it's not something I'd be entirely worried about. But I'll talk a bit about Trinity Hall. So, first of all, we do have accommodation on campus, but that's normally reserved for people with a disability, or particularly final years, and then also students that contribute very heavily to student societies. We do have off-campus options in Cabinet Court and Binary Hub, which again are located off-campus but very close to town. Most first years opt for Trinity Hall. It's really exclusively for first years. And that's located in Rathmines, which is a suburb in South Dublin. And that's where I stayed in my first year, and I loved it. So admission is done through a personal statement, and that's normally submitted around July time. But a bit of advice: they're looking for students who are going to contribute to the social side of Trinity Hall, and as well as obviously very academically disciplined and driven. But they're interested in people that are really going to contribute to the social life. Like for instance, I do a lot of music on the side. I play saxophone, so in Trinity Hall we put on a musical, and I played in the band for that. So there's loads of opportunities like that. In Trinity Hall, you live with a group of second years called the JCR. It's a 10 or 11 group team, but they're all elected to those positions, and they help you in your first year from day one. So with moving in, settling into your course, and setting up Wi-Fi. And they also organise loads of nights out for you in the first year. So that's a tremendously good experience. It's something I really enjoyed, and I do miss it, I have to say. An important consideration is the tuition fee. So we don't pay a tuition fee in Trinity because most of the fee is subsidised by the Irish government. We pay a student contribution fee instead, which totals about €3,000. It's about £2,700 at the minute. Pending Brexit, it could be much more favourable. But we're very lucky in the north that our tuition fees are substantially cheaper than England, Scotland, and Wales. But the Republic's cheaper again. So that's a big thing worth considering. You're racking up far less debt than you would if you were studying in the UK. And you're entitled to the exact same student finance from Student Finance Northern Ireland if you apply to any college in the Republic of Ireland. So instead of applying for a tuition fee loan, you apply for a student contribution fee loan. And all that information can be found on their website. It's very, very straightforward. So if you should be able to find it on their website, fine. If not, you can contact them directly, and they're very, very helpful. Maintenance loans and grants and additional support like disability allowance is all made in the exact same way if you were applying to Britain or the North. Some students also qualify for the SUSI grant, which is a southern scheme, and it's means assessed. It's a grant. It's not like a loan that everyone qualifies under Student Finance Northern Ireland. So you can check that out online if you need any further information on that. Like I was saying at the start, most of my classmates didn't study in the Republic of Ireland. Very few of us did. But a big draw for me was being away from home, but not completely inaccessible from home. I didn't really want to move to England, Scotland, or Wales because I didn't want to have the stress of booking flights to get home, particularly with COVID now as well. It's much more complicated. I like the idea that if I need to go home for anything, I can just hop on a bus to Derry, and I'm home in a few hours. But it's very straightforward. So, like I said, Dublin's very well connected by bus and rail. At the start, I tended to go home maybe every 2 or 3 weeks. Now, probably only every 6 or 7, because I do really feel very settled down here. And that was a big appeal for me. In terms of the application process, we're obviously not on UCAS because we're not based in the UK. All our applications are handled by the CAO. I'm sure many of you watching this video have UCAS fatigue at the minute and have spent hours crafting your personal statement and gathering references and making sure all your work experience is applicable. The good news is the CAO is much more straightforward and nowhere near as time consuming. There's no personal statement, there's no references, no work experience considered, nothing. It's purely just your grades that matter, which we'll get into in a second. But so your application is made in cao.ie. It's a cheap application fee. It's about €45, but you can get it for cheaper if you apply early. And there is a late fee that applies as well, but you get 10 course choices compared to the 5 in the UK. So even if you are just thinking about coming to the Republic of Ireland, I'd really encourage you to make an application because it's a good top up to have to your UK as well. Particularly if you don't get into a UK choice, it's great to have some applications made to courses that you would actually like to do in the Republic instead of having to go through clearing and ending up somewhere you had no intention of being. This is just a screen grab of the application process. It's very straightforward. Just ask for your personal details and what exams you're presenting. It'll also ask for your country of birth and nationality. Remember, it doesn't matter what nationality you put down. So whether you identify as British or Irish, that won't impact your application at all. You'll still be considered in the same pool of applicants. The difference, I suppose, is unlike UCAS, CAO applicants are only going to receive one offer, and you'll get that after your exam results. You get 10 course choices, but you list them in order of preference. And it's simply the highest grades get in first, and you're competing with people across the UK and Ireland. And it's the only requirement. So if there's one thing you need to take away from today is that you have to list those course choices in order of preference. If you don't, if you have a third choice down there that you really want, but you get into your second choice, you will not get into the third then. I know this is brand new information, it's somewhat complicated, but there's really good video guides on cao.ie that explain that offer process and how you can move up on the list. But it really is very straightforward. In terms of the grades, your grades will be converted into CAO points, and that's so we can compare them to the leaving certificate results from people applying from the south. So you can see as the table there, you get points awarded for your best 3 A-levels, that's A2s. If you do have a 4th A2 or a 4th AS, you will get some points added on for that. In some of the literature, it does say that you can get points awarded for an A-star AS. I'm aware that there's no A-star AS, but that really is a plan for people who are sitting the extended project program in Britain. I'm not sure if that's in the north yet, but just so you're clear on that. If you're presenting A2 maths or further maths, you can have 25 points added on to your score, no matter what you get, provided it's at a grade E or above. And that's really useful to have that, because people who are sitting the Leaving Cert get 25 bonus points for higher maths. So that's where that's coming from. The only other requirement we have is that at GCSE, you have to present 6 subjects at grade C or above, and they have to include English language, maths, and a foreign language. So it's a language other than English, so it can include Irish. And that's a requirement that there won't be exemptions made for. So if your school didn't offer it, that is a rigid requirement for us. You have to present a GCSE foreign language. And then obviously other schools and courses will have course-specific entry requirements. So if you're applying for maths, they will obviously expect you to have A-level maths. So all that can be found in your prospectus very easily. There are some exceptions to the very straightforward CAO process I mentioned. All these programs are still handled by the CAO, but they do have some additional hoops to jump through. So drama and theatre, music education, all require some form of interview or entrance exam. So please be aware of that. There'll be deadlines associated with that, and all that information can be found on the course page. Furthermore, medicine requires you to sit an aptitude test known as the HPAT, which is essentially the Irish UK CAT. And your CAO points will be calculated slightly differently in that your A-level score will be added on to your HPAT score. The HPAT's out of 300. So if you're looking at previous points for medicine, please don't be alarmed that they're over 700. It's impossible to get that with A-levels alone. It's because it's a combination of the A-level and the HPAT score. You have to get at least 480 in the A-levels. As you would expect it, to be honest, to be very difficult to get in with only 480. But if you're attaining points higher than 550 in your A-levels, they will then start to be scaled slightly differently. So that's in that table. And that's just a standardization process that's used for the HPAT. So just to sum up on medicine, there's no personal statement required, no interview, no references, no prior work experience, but you do need top grades in your A-levels and the HPAT. We don't accept the UK CAT because we've been asked that in the past, but no, it has to be the HPAT. But further information can be found in a very useful booklet. It's called Undergraduate Entry to Medicine for EU applicants. That's available on the Trinity Medicine webpage and also the CAO webpage. It should be very easy to find, so I recommend you look at that. Trinity recognises that many students in the north don't sit 4 A-levels, and most are sitting only 3. So to help with that, and this is just in Trinity alone, other colleges in the south won't be doing this, we reserve 3 places on every course for students who apply through this feasibility study. Medicine doesn't apply to this because of HPAT requirements, so you can't apply to medicine through the feasibility study. But this is an additional application you make, so you still have to apply through the CAO. But this additional application really increases your chances of getting into the college because you're only competing essentially with other applicants of this study, and that's it. So I really recommend you look into that. The deadline is around the same time as the CAO deadline, so I haven't got the firm deadline yet, but please make sure you apply on time because we won't be able to accept late applications. In terms of Brexit, I'm sure many have concerns about what's going to happen there, whether or not you'll be treated as a non-EU student and pay upwards of €18,000. So the UK has left the EU, and the end of the transition period is the end of this year. But Trinity maintains, committed, or remains committed to maintain its reputation as a university for the entire island of Ireland. So a bit of a background to the decisions that have been made so far. For the past few years, the Government of Ireland have continued their supports for UK students studying in the Republic of Ireland. And they even passed an amendment to the Brexit bill in the Irish Parliament to protect the existing fee status if there's no deal for Northern Irish students only. And then in May 2019, which is quite significant, the Memorandum of Understanding between the Irish and British governments that pledged to maintain the existing support for Irish and British citizens studying in the common travel area. So that's the UK and Ireland. So while a decision hasn't officially been made on the UK Northern Ireland fees for the next academic year, it's very unlikely to change. I just can't confirm that at the minute, but it is very unlikely to change. But it's really important to note as well, once that confirmation has been given in, your fee status will not change for the duration of your course. Once you begin a course, that's your fee status locked in essentially. It won't change. So even if all the, Brexit negotiations went sour and they weren't able to commit past next year, that would be fine. You would still be locked in the fees you have. And obviously you just need to be aware of some key dates. I haven't got the key dates for this year at the time of recording, but it's roughly the same timescale each year. So in November, the CAO application will open, and then we obviously are hosting the Trinity Open Day at the minute. There's also, bear in mind, the deadline for discounted fees for the CAO application, and then the actual deadline for the application. And then for medical applicants, please be aware of the deadline for registering for or booking your HPAT, because if you book it too late, you might not be able to get the test centre you want. I'm sure most people will want Dublin or somewhere in the west, depending on where you are. I really doubt any of you want to drive to Cork, so please make sure you register for that in time. And then Trinity Hall applications will obviously open, and that's done by a personal statement. And obviously, it's important to note as well that you can adjust your CAO choices for months after the deadline. So that's worth looking into on the CAO website. And then offers will be made after A-level grades. So thanks very much for listening. I hope it's been somewhat informative. There'll be people able to answer your questions throughout this virtual open day. And I encourage you to go to look at other talks for courses on Erasmus and different things. If you check out the CAO website, we run tcd.ie/CAO. We're running quite regular webinars for applicants, and once a month we run a Northern Ireland specific webinar. So I think you'd find that tremendously beneficial. But yeah, good luck with your A-levels. Enjoy the rest of your day, and yeah, all the best.